question is, it's all very good that we know this information, but what are we going to do with this information? Because when you leave here, you can go home and say, wow, it's really interesting stuff and blah, blah, blah. And tomorrow morning you wake up and you go back to your job. And you go back to becoming a slave. And you forget about this amazing information. And that's the trap we're in. If we don't do something with this information, if we don't share it, sometimes you've got to be very gentle how you share this information. You can't just go out there, right, and say, hey, did you know that these ancient structures were giant circuit boards that kept an energy binary code grid around the world that kept us all enslaved? I suggest you don't do that. Be gentle with this information, because now that you know this, you're an advanced, more conscious being, and you're dealing with children on a conscious level. So talk to them like children. Hello. How are you? Binary code. Is there something up in the sky? Can you see something? We've got to realize that the 2012 event, the 2012 prophecy, was a real event. It wasn't just a cosmological event or a prophetic event. It was a real physical event because our solar system crossed the galactic equator. Our solar system crossed through the galactic equator, and in the galactic equator are encoded the most dense frequencies and energies of our galaxy, the Milky Way. And what happens when you cross the galactic equator? Some weird, freaky stuff happens. One of the weird, freaky stuff is that those frequencies affect the DNA in our body. And now that you know what the DNA in our body is, you'll know that it's activated and manipulated and affected by frequencies. It seems, and the evidence is all around us, that our junk DNA has been activated in that event, crossing the frequencies encoded in the galactic equator. And the ancient Mayas knew about it, and other ancient cultures knew about it. That's why they talk about this new age of enlightenment, where people will wake up from their dream and their darkness and suddenly see the light and see the truth, because their junk DNA will be activated. And the more you think about this, the more you activate your own DNA, and the faster you speed this up. So think about it all the time. What we realize is unfortunately not so good, because we realize that we are not born free on our planet. That from the moment you are born, you cannot move around freely. We cannot live where we choose to. We have to follow rules and laws that we didn't agree to. We need passports to cross borders and work permits to work and earn money. And if you don't have a passport and you don't have a work permit, you can't earn money, and then you go to jail. I mean, what's this all about? This is not freedom. What is this called? It's called slavery. And we realize that we're born into slavery on our planet. This has been going on forever. But now that we know it, we can do something about it. How do these pictures make us feel? Human slavery in modern times? They make me sick to my stomach. I can hardly look at pictures like this. I must tell you, it shakes me at the deepest level of my humanness. But I need to show you this, because these are the effects of money and capitalism. This is what has become of humanity, through the control of money, where they take human beings and they treat them with absolutely no humanity whatsoever. When you sell humans as property to be abused, when you completely misuse and abuse other human beings, means you've lost every ounce of humanness and consciousness. Whips and chains have simply been replaced by money. Modern slavery is a huge global industry. Every one of us is enslaved by money. It has infiltrated every crack and crevice of our lives. We cannot escape it. Brands and corporations and careers have become our prison cells. And it's up to us what we do about this. How did it get so bad? Some people don't understand when it got so bad and how it got so bad. And this is the critical moment in human history. When we learn in the Sumerian texts, when kingdom was lowered to earth from heaven, and the first priest kings were appointed by the gods, most likely these Anunnaki beings were appointed as the first priest kings, and they were given fierce weapons and knowledge of sorcery and wizardry and alchemy, with which those first priest kings and the royal bloodlines could control and suppress humanity. And these are two of these Sumerian texts that very clearly tell us when this happened. The Sumerian kings lists, when kingdom was lowered to earth from heaven. And what did those first kings and priest kings do? They created money. Money was not a consequence of thousands of years of barter and trade. That is a lie that many of us have believed and swallowed. You must forget about that. That is not true. Money was maliciously introduced by these early priest kings because they knew it was just a much cleverer form of enslavement. If you didn't have money, you couldn't live on the king's land. This is one of the oldest forms of money. The Sumerian tablet that records the guy bringing a few silver shekels, silver pieces, into the temple, because the temples were the first banks and the priest kings were the first bankers. Nothing has changed, right? I mean, it was Jesus, the only time that he was violent in his life, if you want to believe that, only time he showed any form of violence was with the bankers in the temple. And so history just keeps repeating itself. Very soon, millions of us are going to storm the temples and become violent. That's when they close the banks and they refuse to give you your money, like they did in Cyprus. But they got away with it. They were just testing us. This is a 4,000-year-old bill of exchange. At least in ancient times, they made the bills of exchange on clay that last forever. Today we make it on paper that can burn. Conveniently, we don't have it anymore. It went up in a fire. But I promise you, we had it. We used to have it. So we know that the world is run by banksters. They create money out of thin air. These are the royal bloodlines that go back thousands of years, and they have retained this exclusive royal privilege to create money. We know who these banking families are, and they control every aspect of our lives, from the moment we take our first breath to the last breath we breathe out. Our countries, our corporations, traded on the stock markets. Our birth certificates are being traded as stock. We are the stock, people. Remember, we are born into slavery. Just to show you an example, here is Lehman Brothers. Down at the bottom here, you got Standard Bank of South Africa. Up there top, you got Anglo-American. That's Cecil John Rhodes's company. It was the largest company in the world for many years. And here you've got Republic of South Africa, a corporation. And so you'll find every country in the world is registered as a corporation. Every city, every state, every province, every county, everything is registered as a corporation. Our entire planet is one giant corporation. What we find out is that we do not need money, because it was maliciously introduced as a tool of enslavement. And why can I say we do not need money? Because money does nothing. We do everything. People do everything. And it's the money that gets in the way. People grow the food, build the bridges, create the technology. People create the art and the culture. Money cannot do that. Only people are capable of infinite love. Money destroys love. Money destroys families. Money destroys communities. Money gets in the way of every progress we should be achieving. And it is not the love of money, as many people say. Oh, it's just the love of money. No, rubbish. It's the presence of money that causes all the misery on our planet. So we realize that all this knowledge and information we have about this enslavement on our planet, that we have to find a new system. The system is broken. We've tried it for 6,000 years. We can't fix the problem using the same tools that created the problem. Thank you, Albert Einstein. So we got to get rid of the tools that created the problem, and those tools are money. So remove the money, and we solve the problem. It's that simple. But when you say remove the money to some people, they go into a cold sweat and panic, and they start to shake. And I've seen this over 10 years. I've seen how people go into a physical, it's like you've just attacked them. What? How are we going to survive? And they go into immediate fear. It's like this fear that just possesses them. Oh no, what I realize is that you can attack Catholics, you can attack Jews, you can attack Muslims, you can attack any religion, but you can't attack the money. It is beyond attack. It is holier than anything else. That's what's happened to it. And that's the problem. This world without money are called contributionism, a system that operates without money, that allows people to contribute their God-given talents for the greatest benefit of everyone else. In Africa, it's an ancient system known as Ubuntu. All ancient cultures share the same philosophy. They have different names for it. And it's a beautiful system of unity within your community. There are 5 simple points to a contributionist system. No money, no barter, no trade, no value attached to anything greater than anything else, because all of our contributions should always be seen as equally valuable, because it's just our time that we spend in contributing. And finally, it's a system where everyone contributes their God-given talents or their skills for the greater benefit of all in their community. It's that simple. When you remove money from the system, something miraculous happens. Immediately. No crime, no envy, no gluttony, no greed, no hoarding, no hierarchy, no hunger, no obstacles to any progress. It is so simple that we cannot screw it up. And I've seen this over 10 years now. Since 2005, the first dinner party I went to share this philosophy, I was very green. I had no idea what I was talking about. I was nearly beaten up by these guys that I suggested to them I wanted to create a world without money. And these were all bankers. I walked into a trap. They really wanted to beat me up. Why can I say we can't screw it up? Because it follows the natural laws, the natural order of things. It's a self-correcting system. And I can tell you that I've realized that no matter what problem you throw at this, and I've had hundreds of thousands of problems throw at this. Well, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? Just imagine the thousands and hundreds of thousands of emails I've had in 10 years from people. Well, it's still standing. You cannot break this down because it's a self-correcting system. Every problem you throw at this gets resolved for the best outcome of the community, not for individuals at the expense of anybody else. This is why it is a self-correcting system. It follows the natural laws. The question is, how do we get there? Step by step. The good thing is we've already taken the first steps. We're on our way there already. It is a system of cooperation and not competition. Competition is the worst thing that could have ever happened. It's the foundation of capitalism. It's the foundation of our misery. The sooner we can replace competition with cooperation, you'll see how quickly things change. The scientists should be cooperating to deliver the best solutions in free energy, in alternative healthcare, in cures for all disease. And guess what? We know that free energy has been discovered. Nikola Tesla gave us free energy and many others. We know that the cure for all disease has been discovered. Real Life and many others have given us the cure for all disease. But then the corporations kill it because it's not good for business. So we realize how everything good and beautiful in our lives has been destroyed by money and corporate greed and the hierarchical structure through competition. Cooperation is what we need, not competition. Transforming small towns into communities of abundance. It is much easier to transform a small town of a few hundred or a few thousand people than trying to convert a large city. And community projects are the foundation of this. I suggest that we contribute our gifts, our talents to community projects, and all we do need is 3 hours per week So I'm going to quickly take you through this. Imagine a town of 1,000 people. If each one of us contributes 3 hours a week to one of the many community projects, that's 3,000 hours a week. Can you imagine how much bread we'll have? There'll be too much bread, too much milk, too many bridges, too many windows, too much fish, the roads will be too clean, there'll just be too much stuff. Just 3 hours a week is all we need to contribute. And you start seeing how we turn one community into a community of abundance. The moment you've got this community working together, creating 3 times as much as you need. This is why it's called a community of abundance, not a self-sustained community. Many people get this wrong. They think, oh, it's a self-sustained community. No. Self-sustained communities are closed systems. Closed systems do not work. Ask any scientists. They suffocate themselves. It needs to be an open system through which energy flows. And we turn it into an open system through which energy flows by creating 3 times as much as we need. Because we've created all the stuff in our community virtually for nothing, virtually for free. That means we can make available all the milk, the bread, the building material, whatever it is we create, we can make it available to all our neighboring communities for a fraction of the price that they pay for it in their own shops and their own supermarkets. The moment we've done that in our little town, we've collapsed the economic model, the capitalistic model of all our neighboring communities. And very quickly they're going to have to adapt the same contributionist philosophy that we have created here. That is how quickly things can change, people. And that is how simple it is. The one thing that we're looking at here is energy is critical to this, and this is why energy is probably the most fiercely protected area of our industry. Because once we have a free energy device and our community can get an alternative source of free electricity, everybody will participate. In return for free electricity, everybody gets to work 3 hours a week in one of the community projects. And you realize how quickly we can make this thing happen. Now, when I come back to South Africa next week, I'll be bringing back with me a free energy device. Not just one, but several free energy devices that you will also know about, because I'll be putting all this on the internet. Energy devices that every town, every community, every city can have access to. It's up to us how we introduce this to our communities and use it as a binding, as a unifying tool to unify the people and not separate the people. This is very important. The energy aspect could be the critical point of unifying people to start working together in cooperation. Master teachers that teach skills for life, and not the disgusting education system that we have today that turns our children into a future labor force, because that's all it is. When you finish 12 years of school, what have you got? You can't bake a bread, you can't grow food, you can't build a bridge, you don't know how to make cement. You have no bloody idea about anything, but you have a certificate with which you go looking for a job. Well, I have news for the guys that are leaving school and university today. Most of the people with certificates today will probably not find a job, but they're going to spend the rest of their lives paying the debt that they had to pay to get this certificate from the university. That's the trap that we find that the young people today find themselves in. So my suggestion to everyone, wherever I go, is take your children out of school while you still can. Stop subjecting your children to this torture and brainwashing them for 12 years of their lives. Start your own community homeschooling system. Start teaching your children what you need, what they need for true skills for life. And you'll see very soon we'll have a community that understands this. Remember that only out of unity comes infinite diversity. Remember the body. Some people don't understand this. Some people think that having contributionism and this system, everybody will be the same. No! Infinite diversity. Remember that only if you work together, like the cells in your body, when you work together for the greatest benefit of your body, of the community, only then will you create infinite abundance and infinite diversity, because everything is possible.
The Ubuntu movement now has members in more than 250 countries and growing faster than I could ever have imagined, even a year ago. At the moment in our little town, the first community project we're starting is a community kitchen. We have 80% unemployment in our town.
80% unemployment. We have people that just don't have jobs, they can't afford food, they're walking the streets. We have about 200 orphans, AIDS orphans, young mothers with HIV that have got HIV children. It's a huge problem. The moment we can feed the people with at least one good meal a day, we've done something that's not been done in a long time. We've given them dignity. We give them confidence and we regain their confidence. That's what we need to do. Regain the people's confidence. Once they believe us and they trust us, they will do whatever we suggest. The community kitchen will be funded with the recycling of the rubbish dump. Everything needs to be recycled. The money from the rubbish dump will buy the food that'll feed the people in the community kitchen. But they can't just get the food. They need to do something in one of the community projects for 3 hours to come get their meal. So immediately we introduced the contributionist system into the equation. And this brings me to the political aspect of the Ubuntu movement. Some people say, wow, you're selling out, you're going into politics. They clearly don't understand how these things work. We're suggesting that we close down the central banks and replace them with people's banks that issue money for the people, tax-free and interest-free. That could be seen as treason in some places. Some of the things that we were saying in trying to liberate people from this financial enslavement are so inflammatory that they could be seen as treason. By putting it on a political platform is a protection. And I can say anything I want because it's your political manifesto to the people of your country or the people of your province. And you can say crazy and weird things, like we want to close down the central bank and open a people's bank. Suddenly it's okay. So going into having a political platform for the Ubuntu movement is critical, not because we want to go into politics, but because we want to inject a virus of consciousness into the political beast. And in South Africa on the 7th of May, we participated in the elections, which means I ran for president, believe it or not. It's funny, but it's true. We didn't get in, but that doesn't matter. We went in with 1 million followers. We had 1 million followers going into the South African elections. We ended up with 8,234 votes. That's how corrupt the system is. I was naive. I thought that we would get into parliament. No way. Because once we got into parliament, that would be the beginning of the end. Because we will continue on a daily basis to say, we're going to close down the Reserve Bank and open a People's Bank. Not because we want to replace the one money by another money, but because shutting down the privately owned central banks is the first step towards freeing people from the private bank enslavement. And then you move away from it as you go. So it's important to note that the political side is just a protection and to inject the virus into the political beast. During the elections, as you can see there, every political party had their little table. And one by one, they would come to our table and see my book there, the Ubuntu book. And they look at it and they go, are you selling those books? I said, no, you can have one. Really? I take it. Will you sign it for me? And by the end of the elections, every political party had at least 2 of the Ubuntu books on their table. That's what I call injecting the virus of consciousness right into the heart of the political beast. So, thank you. So remember, people, that politics is about us. We elect our politicians to be our representatives, to do for us what we want. So we shouldn't be scared of politics. We should take it back and bring it back to the people, because those are supposed to be our representatives. And that's what this is all about. So I believe that within the next 5 years, the way the Ubuntu movement is growing around the world, we're going to, I guess I must finish now. Yes. I believe we're going to have Ubuntu parties in several countries of the world, creating the first ever trans-border, transnational, global movement of unity consciousness that speaks the same message right across the world. And that's the message I'm going to leave you with here. Remember, it's about the people. People first. Everything comes after that. So take this information, go out there and tell everyone. Become a seed of consciousness, because once you've told them, they can never unhear it. Thank you for listening.